Put pupils first, give teachers time to teach. Good morning, colleagues. We are moving on to the second phase of our industrial action to bring about a real reduction in teacher workload. It is our intention to give teachers back their time to focus on the most important part of their work, teaching and learning. We need to encourage teachers to control their time and be prepared to question the tasks they have been asked to undertake. Does the task need the expertise and skills of a teacher, and has the time been made available for it? If not, then the task should be declined. The next phase of our action will focus on the national qualifications and how to manage teacher workload. This will be issued in the coming weeks. This presentation will add more detail to the guidance that has been circulated to you recently, and if we can all work together, we can achieve meaningful change for pupils and teachers in the future. Core duties. The contract for all teachers is a maximum of 35 hours per week. The most important part of a teacher's work is teaching, and it is what teachers are paid for. Teachers can be required to teach and cover absent colleagues up to a maximum of 22.5 hours a week. Teachers have an additional 7.5 hours of preparation and correction time to support their teaching. These 30 hours should be ring-fenced as an essential part of a teacher's work and not available for reallocation to other tasks or duties. Collegiate time. The remaining time of 5 hours a week is known as collegiate time and is determined by the school's working time agreement. If a teacher takes part in a voluntary activity, and in many cases this is an activity that most enjoyed by teachers, it must be entirely voluntary and can be brought to an end any time by the teacher. If a teacher is asked to undertake supervised study, then teachers should be paid. The teacher is entering a separate contract and the SSTA guidance does not apply. If the teacher is not being paid, it is not part of the teacher's contract and can be declined. Preparation and correction. In an ideal world, every piece of pupils' work would be corrected perfectly with comments throughout and guidance for improvement. But it cannot be done within the time allocated in the teacher contract. Do remember that teachers engage with pupils throughout their lessons, giving support and guidance on their pupils' work. There is no necessity for it to be recorded by the teacher again in their jotters. Teachers need to develop a strategy to correct a piece of pupils' work in more detail, over a given period, but not on every occasion. A schedule needs to be used to ensure that all pupils have a piece of detailed corrected work on a regular basis, but not on every piece of work. Cover for absent colleagues. A principal teacher with management responsibilities can be asked to set work for an absent colleague on the occasion when work has not been left by an absent teacher. It is not reasonable for this to be expected for an indefinite period, and teachers should seek additional time for this additional duty if it is required. It is also not the responsibility of the teacher who sets the work for the absent colleague to be expected to correct the work when it's completed. Cover for vacant posts. Vacant posts cause difficulties for pupils, teachers and the school. All vacant posts should be covered by a supply teacher. Most teachers have been assigned their classes and duties at the start of the school session, and not to fulfil the pupil entitlement to a qualified teacher for the whole year is unfair on the pupil and the teacher. Due to a lack of supply teachers and subject specialists, teachers sometimes agree to help cover a vacancy. This should only be done on a limited basis, as this would disadvantage their assigned classes and add unfair pressure on the teacher. Schools should acknowledge this additional duty and allocate additional time for preparation and correction. Professional review and development. Professional review and development is required of all teachers for their CES registration. Adequate time needs to be found, but we are aware that some schools are finding it difficult. Please identify the problem to your head teacher at the earliest opportunity and seek support from the school representative in the process. Management positions. Members should identify the management time allocated within the 35-hour week and the various duties that they have been asked to undertake. Members should ensure their teaching, preparation and correction time is protected, as teaching and learning is their primary function. Members in management positions should use the time allocated to undertake the additional tasks. It should not be at the detriment of their teaching. The same conditions should apply to colleagues for whom they manage. If the duties exceed the teacher contract of 35 hours per week, head teachers should be asked to prioritise the duties. Guidance and pupil support. All time spent teaching or engaging with pupils should be contained within the 22.5 hours teaching time, with a further 7.5 hours used for preparation, correction and supporting the pupil engagement. The work of the teacher must be contained within the 35-hour week. A caseload that exceeds 35 hours a week should be declined. A decision to reduce guidance and pupil support posts in the past should not increase the teacher's workload. Should the duties and number of cases exceed the teacher contract of 35 hours per week, head teachers should be asked to prioritise the duties. Establishment contact. All time spent teaching or engaging with pupils and their families should be contained within the 22.5 hours teaching time, with a further 7.5 hours used for preparation, correction, supporting the pupil and the family engagement. The teacher should ensure they are the most appropriate person for the pupil and their family. An important part of the teacher role is engaging with the pupil and their family. The school should ensure this engagement is the priority and provide administrative support to undertake duties that do not require the expertise and skills of the teacher. Should the duties and number of cases exceed the teacher contract of 35 hours per week, head teachers should be asked to prioritise the duties. Next step. Do ensure that the line manager is aware of the workload burden and seek their direction. Do seek support from your school representative or the staff at SSTA head office. Do remember that this is the second phase of our industrial action to bring about a reduction in teacher workload. Additional guidance on national qualifications will follow in the coming weeks. As the industrial action has begun, we can legally add or remove guidance during the action. If you have a query or concern, please do not hesitate to contact the association for further help and support.